Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of Living the Journey. I'm Jenna Harris.
And I'm CJ Sanchez.
And we are celebrating Self-Care Week this week. We're talking all things self-care in this video today. And later on this week, we're going to be collaborating with other people who promote wellness, including Skinn. They're having an event this Thursday called the Self-Love Event, which we invite everyone to go out and join. There's going to be local vendors promoting wellness and self-care. So we invite everyone to go. And with that being said, we're going to dive into some of our own personal self-care routines and some things that we really value when it comes to self-care. So
yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
I love the structure that kind of you formulated for the way we're breaking down today's self-care, because I think self-care can kind of go into several different categories.
Yeah.
But I think having a core base of like what the following steps that we're going to be talking about mean to us and how we incorporate other things in that routine is something that anybody can take and really kind of morph into whatever their, wherever they're at in their life with self-care and what they're needing.
I just really feel that self-care is more than just like taking care of your skin. Yep. It's more than getting your nails done, which all of those things are also self-care, but I like to, think about it as something even deeper than that, because it's all about laying the foundation down for your growth, for your healing, for becoming the best possible version of you and accomplishing your dreams. But I really think that it starts like at the core, at the self-worth, at the self-love.
And I think self-care, self-love, all of that, all those terminologies, they're nothing new, but I think they've taken on a new meaning these days. I think there's been a lot of things that a lot of us have had to reflect on this past year, and a lot of unknowing routines formulated that were required to be self-care, right? Because, like you mentioned, it's not just about the exterior aspect of things. I mean, it's not just about the skincare or the dieting or the exercising. I mean, this part is all of that has to be in line with with everything else, and if one's not in check, something gets affected.
Exactly.
It's just that's just the way we're programmed. But yeah, let's dive into the list that we got for today.
So we're going to be going over the 12 steps to self-care, and something that we're going to be doing is we're going to print all this up and put it on a cute little card. So when you come visit us at Skinn, we're going to give you one of these, and I highly encourage you to tape it up on your mirror and live by these rules, and you'll see why. You'll see why you want to incorporate this into your life. So the first one is, if it feels wrong, don't do it.
Yeah. Nope. I think that's something that I think that's always constantly a work in progress, right? Because I think you can break that down in several different settings, personally, professionally, emotionally. Like we're constantly having to ask that question, that intuition, so to speak. So keeping that in check.
I think we just we waste so much precious time and energy when we're agreeing to do things that we don't want to do. We can be doing so many other things, yet we find ourselves saying yes to a lot of things that we know intuitively that
are benefiting us. In fact, sometimes saying yes to certain things you don't realize kind of harm you more than making sure that somebody feels better, right? Or that you're not disappointing so-and-so or whatever the case is in whatever setting. But I think having a good balance of recognizing that and knowing how that affects you is the key. And I wanted to, when you mentioned that, I wanted you to elaborate a little bit. I think your morning routines and some of your practices, would you say that those, meditating and journaling and kind of just really kind of honing in on what your thoughts are for that day, what your intentions are, have you noticed those kind of playing a positive factor in you being able to identify things that don't feel right? Oh my gosh,
yes. Like my morning routine is everything, and that could be like its whole
topic.
Episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really important to me, and it's something that I've spent the last couple of weeks, months developing, but then it changes. Yeah. But it really does help me to align myself with myself, like really getting in tune with what it is that I'm trying to accomplish for the day, and
it's gotten. Would you say it's gotten deeper? Because I feel like even when our conversations and a lot of the things and ideas and stuff that we have that are in play now. I say that for me because I know you're already at a more advanced like routine, so to speak, and my simple implementation of a fraction of that has even brought a different sense of clarity to me. Does. You know,
yeah. So. It's just like you are really coming into focus with what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and so if we can hone in on that. We spend so much less time wasted doing the things that don't matter. Absolutely. So yes, I think my morning routine plays a major factor in if it feels wrong, don't do it. I can sense it. Yeah. I'm in tune with it.
And I think like that being said, I'll trickle into the second one, but it's say exactly what you mean. And I think those two things. That
one's rough for me.
It's hard, and I almost feel like. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but all the first three, I think I told you, like they kind of all. It's a revolving door for me because it's something that I personally feel is a work in progress, a big work in progress. Because the third one, I don't want to. I will keep it in order, but we'll talk about all these right now. Is don't be a people pleaser. But if it doesn't feel right, or if it feels wrong, don't do it. And say exactly what you mean are sometimes two things that I can't differentiate between because I want to be a people pleaser. You know what I'm saying? Like I think naturally, like that's just the way I've been programmed. The line of work that I've been in for the past 12 years, like. Requires me to deal with a lot of people, a diverse group of individuals, and I'm the type that I don't want to, I want to make sure Jenna's happy, but I also want to make sure so and so's happy.
I struggle with the same thing, but someone that I really learned from when it comes to this is my husband.
Okay.
My husband is, Mark, he's very direct when he speaks. But it's not harmful. It's not rude. Right. It's just very straightforward, to the point. You know exactly what he expects and what he means to say.
And you believe it when you hear it.
Right. Yeah. And I admire that. And I think that's what this is trying to say is say exactly what you mean so that there's no second guessing. There's no there are no words lost in translation or meaning lost in translation.
Do you think that sometimes maybe that's affected by not 100% being present in something, like where you kind of adapt to the situation, your environment, or whatever the case is? Because I look at somebody like Mark, and Mark's a very like driven individual, and if he, I've seen his work ethic, and I think I've always noticed there's a parallel between people that are direct and being successful, and I not to say that we're not successful people, but
we have our strengths and weaknesses, and that's definitely
and I feel like it's one of those things that. The way I would say it is, man, if I just tweak these things a little bit, I'd be working smarter, not harder.
And that is the whole point of this list. It's work more in tune, more in flow. The more in harmony we can be with ourselves, it translates into our life. It's not just like you working on you and that's all that becomes of it.
Yeah.
No, it's for a bigger purpose. It's so that you can flow harmoniously with life, so that you can accomplish your dreams and reach them effortlessly and in a flow. It's the flow of life.
What would you say, like, with thus far with these three, like what's a good tip like that we can share that to utilize, like how we can put these things into play to be part of a self-care routine?
Honestly, I would say just stop and take a beat. Like just stop and breathe and listen to yourself. Try to get that chatter in your head to slow down and really focus on what it is that you want. Not about what is going to make someone happy, not about what's going to please someone over here. It's about what is it that really your heart desires.
I think for me, one of the things that I've been able to do recently as part of what I consider now my self-care initiatives or routine is like journaling, writing things down, whether it physically be in a notebook that I have or on my phone.
I'm a huge advocate of journaling.
And it's you're kind of the reason I started doing it.
That's like this whole thing is like it's a living
over here too.
Living journal.
But I think like and not necessarily today I feel blah blah. Like I'm not that kind of that's not journaling for me. But I know everybody's got their own version and what works for them. But sometimes just thoughts that I have that day or conversations that I have, like kind of writing bullet points of them down, kind of make me reevaluate what I was thinking or what I was doing. And that for me has been something that I've been able to reflect back on, and I think that kind of clarity has been helpful in my self-care and really kind of not letting things pile up.
Yeah.
Because then that's when things start.
That's a really good tip. I like that.
Thanks.
Let's go to the next one. We've got a few more coming up. Trust your instincts. This one is so good and so big for me. To me, instincts are intuition, instincts. You know, it's they kind of go hand in hand for me. But I know for a fact that when I don't listen, things don't go right, or I find myself in conflict and resistance. And I know that when I listen to my intuition, that things are smooth.
Usually on the plane. That's usually the rule of thumb. You know, like if it does, if you don't feel it in your gut, if it's not something that you're doing with intention, you'll know. You know, and your instincts are there for a reason. And I think they can get. I think that when you put these other things into practice, those instincts get stronger. You know what I mean? And we've talked about this. And I
call it the intuitive muscle. You know, the more you start trusting yourself, the more cues your body is going to give you, and you're going to listen to them.
You've taught me that, and it plays into even living the journey has been a real big, and the things that we post or something that we want to do. Like to me, sometimes it doesn't feel natural. I'm still trying to please things or do it in a way that is not what the purpose is, and sometimes I don't want to be hypocritical about it. And I love that you push me sometimes, and not push me, but remind me like, hey, just if it feels right, do it. Like just post it. It doesn't matter. So I think it's cool that and that really goes into any aspect of our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that one.
Go for it.
What's up? What's next?
Next is number 5 is never speak bad about yourself. I have issues with this one, and I do it in a way.
Yes.
I do it because feel free to call it out, because I read something. I read like a little quote or something that says even when you joke about something and even something negative as a joke is something negative.
It's so true. You know? I mean, your brain doesn't know the difference.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I cover that. I try to it's fine. Like I'll make fun of myself, but then I'm like, no, it's not a big deal. But
at the core of it, you know that even if you're joking, that there is it's something stings there. Yeah,
you know?
There's something there. There's some kind of shadow or trauma or something, you know, and it's. Yeah. I think that it's really important that you never think anything bad about yourself. Don't say anything bad about yourself, even about your belongings, your car, your clothes, because it's devaluing anything that you have and anything that's around you.
I think for me, that is, I'll be straight up, like that one's like needs a shit ton of work. Like, I mean, that one does for me, like, because I don't necessarily even realize that's how bad it is that I'm doing that, or that I'm that I will, you know, I'm really mindful about it with others. Like I hate when I recognize it in others, and so I'll try to be like I always try to, with my friends, with people in my environment, I try to reaffirm their qualities, right?
Yes, you're like the biggest cheerleader. You're like, awesome, because you're always motivating me.
But that makes me, like, that for me, I think I think that's the kind of thing that you want to spread, right? Like, you want people to, like, because we all have it. You know, we all have, I don't care how confident you are, the minute that, when somebody gives you, like, some positive reinforcement, it's just really great. It's a ripple effect, because it can really, like,
it can fuel you. But I think yes, that is awesome, and I think that it's important. But I think you need to do it for yourself too.
Yeah, that's it's.
You got to start with you.
Yeah, and I didn't really realize that. And when you mentioned this one, I was like, oh, well, I have something to say about it. It may not be in light of a self-care tip, but a tip, don't talk bad about yourself. Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, do the next one. Or it doesn't matter. Go.
Yeah. Never give up on your dreams.
Love that one. Yeah. Love that one. And it did not become more important to me than it did this year.
Yeah.
Like, I think when you start to recognize your dreams, and that goes back to, getting more in tune with yourself, listening to yourself. Once you can start to do all of that, then you start to tunnel in and focus on what you're passionate about, what your purpose is in life, what your dreams are. But I think that that's been a huge one for me this year.
But I also think like
love it.
That just it's that's not a new theory, right? That's nothing
no.
new. Like
I just never knew what my dreams were, and so you know what I mean. Like
that's what I was saying. Like I think for me, like that's why I was saying like it's weird how it kind of it's just like everything else. Like when you hear like when it clicks, like you'll know, right? And I think it's fair to say we like and we can I guess both agree upon this together is that sometimes when it clicks, it just clicks, and and when it feels right, it was like I knew I have this dream. I knew that it was going. Something was gonna manifest. I just didn't know what it was.
Yes, and to that note, I think that you have to work at getting it to click. I don't think that things just happen out of nowhere.
You have to put in the sweat equity for it too.
Right, and I think that's where like what you're saying is like that when something comes along, it'll click. And that's great, but sometimes you have to like
you have to set the foundation
do the work
to get to that point where you realize it because there's been a lot of times where I think you can say, man, I really messed that one up or I let that one slide, but you weren't ready for some reason or another. Like we're at points in our lives where you want something so bad, you want the job so bad, or you want the car so bad, and it's something plays a factor in it. But if you're not really setting your goals, like those dreams should motivate you, right? To work on X, Y, and Z to get to that point, whether it be your resume or your credit score or whatever the case is. Like those all things, that stuff doesn't just magically appear. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. I think that if you want something, work for it, work towards it, and don't give up and
or just follow the breadcrumbs. Like sometimes you don't know what
That's a good one. I love that. Yeah,
you're supposed to do. Yeah. Like that's exactly what has happened in my life. Is it's just been a series of breadcrumbs, and I've just been like trying to connect them, but never giving up on the idea that they're supposed to connect and feeling it intuitively and having faith and all these things, but it's a little bit of everything.
Absolutely.
Believing and having faith and following the breadcrumbs.
I love that. What's
I don't even
I know we
were talking about dreams. We're still on track.
We're still on track.
Okay.
Number 7.
7. This one is hard for me.
Okay.
But I'm getting better.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to say no. And then I'm going to read the next one. They kind of go hand in hand, and I want to talk about how they're different. Yeah. But don't be afraid to say yes is number 8. Yeah. So both important, different contexts.
Absolutely.
Tell me what they mean to you.
I am a people pleaser, so I sometimes don't say.
Circling back to number 3.
Yeah, I talked to one of my coworkers, and Brenda is a coworker and friend of mine, and we've talked about like sometimes we stress ourselves out. Like we all work, we all do our thing, and then in my line of work in particular, sometimes it's easy to say yes to things, and like we said, sometimes you're saying yes to things that end up starting to cost more stress and anxiety than they do anything that's going to be beneficial work-wise, personally, or whatever. After a certain point, it's kind of like it's not serving its purpose.
Right.
It's kind of like, when, like, overworking out, like, it's great to a certain extent, but you exhaust your body, and then you're just being what you're doing is counterproductive, and it's harmful. And I feel it's the same thing. So I think I say yes easily to things that I shouldn't, and I don't say no enough to things that I should. So, but I think you can vouch for this. I've started to make more of an effort to that, and it's not just about going somewhere or saying yes to doing something, but if it's not going to benefit me, and I know that, because I'll say yes to something, and then there I go, I spend $100 I didn't need to spend, and now I have to worry about it at the end of the month, and I never really thought about it that much in advance, and now as I've kind of been a little bit more cognizant of the ideas and the cause and the effect that those things have on me personally, it clicks a little more, you know what I mean? So
for sure.
Yeah.
I also struggle with the don't be afraid to say no. I've gotten better at it, but one thing that has helped me to get better is not saying yes right away.
Yeah, that's true.
When I get asked to do something, or if I want to participate, my first instinct is always to say yes, because I want to do everything, and I want to help everyone.
Right.
But saying, let me think about it, or, let me
check it out.
That has helped me a lot.
You have gotten a lot better at that, because I remember sometimes you're like, a few months back, there's been a couple of times where it's like we're going to do something, it's like, yeah, probably didn't check your schedule, and then you're like, I booked, like you double booked yourself or you do whatever, and then you're like, I'm sorry, and it's like, dude, no, like it's not a big deal, like, you know.
I'm just so aware of my energy now also, and that
you want to be conservative with that.
Yeah, and like I don't want to be wasting it on things that
that's a good
are not
tip,
important,
though.
that are not going to help me.
That's a good tip, though. Like, we should be cognizant of how we're exhausting our energy, and like what is worth making the effort. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you need to reflect back on that and realize that before you say yes or no.
Exactly.
So, I love that.
Love those.
You have the rest of the list, so.
Okay. Okay, this is a good one. We're on number 9. 9. Be kind to yourself.
That goes back to the
Kind of like the one about don't talk bad about yourself.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself.
That's just, and those are two different things, because you can avoid, saying whatever, but it's taking the little steps. And I feel like this is where you can maybe throw in some of the traditional self-care things that we talk about. Like, for me,
nourishing.
Like Skinn bar is one of the things that I've incorporated into myself, that's being kind to myself in a way that I totally would neglect certain things that, yes, exteriorly, like taking care of your face should be something you normally do. And I know that there's way different forms of it, but I'm going to throw it in the sense of like just setting a new routine so that you can be kind to yourself are things that I'm like at my age, I'm realizing that I neglected. And so as simple as skincare routine or as meditating at night before bed or whatever the case is, like that's for you. Like those are things like that I do for me. I know you have a list of things that you do, and it's just so evident that you are kind to yourself because it's a reflection of how you carry on with your life and how you carry on with others. So I think you're a really great example of that. But I also think that for sure. But it's because you've recognized the things that make you feel good, and that is something that's being kind to yourself. Recognizing the things that feel good to you.
I'm not even going to say anything else. I'm going to leave it right there because that was so perfect. You said it very perfectly. Thank you. Thank you for that. It is so important to me.
Yeah.
So important.
Absolutely. What's number 10?
10. Let go of what you can't control.
That's a hard one for me.
Is it? It's
a hard one for me because I think that sometimes, I think by nature, maybe tying it back to the people pleaser thing is that, I stress out about things and think about things that...
You want to try and help everyone and make sure that everyone's okay.
Or I'll stress out about thinking what Jenna might think, or what, mom and dad might think if I end up going this route. You know what I'm saying? So those things, like, I need to not worry about them, because at the end of the day, I can't control what your response is going to be or what your reaction is going to be to something. So why do I have to... waste a few minutes or like time or any energy trying to figure it out.
Exactly.
How do you think that impacts your life?
I think I've gotten better at it. I think it used to be one that I think family would stress me out. I used to let it stress me out a lot.
Like what, people's opinions?
No, more so like I'm kind of like the mediator in my family, and sometimes I get stuck in the middle of a lot of situations, and this goes for friend circles.
Absolutely.
I'm that person that just kind of like gets stuck in the middle, and so
you take on that burden or that like worry.
I try to help everyone out, but what I wound up finding is that I was spinning my wheels and wasting a lot of energy, and I wasn't going to help the situation unless those people wanted to help themselves. And so I started to realize, like, I just need to, like, let people resolve their own conflicts, and when they're ready to change or when they're ready to grow or whatever it is that the situation is, then
you make yourself available. Or they'll come.
Then they'll figure it out, and I mean, I'll still be here to support. And
that's really deep. And that's a really...
Maybe I've said too much.
No, actually, that's because that's so much part of self-care. Like, we worry about things that sometimes those things burden. They play a heavy factor, and when you let it pile up, that's counterproductive to self-care. So yes, absolutely. Like, that's why I was like, that is deep, and I'm glad you shared that, because it's such an important thing that I know you're not the only one. I can think of several examples right now where I'm like, I think that's why it resonated and struck a chord, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about that aspect of things, but we don't have control over those things, and we need to not try to. So
More about yourself.
That's right. Literally.
Okay, 11 is stay away from drama and negativity. Oof.
Say that, trigger that back to 10 and then keep going. That's a big deal, man. Like, if it doesn't benefit you, walk the other way.
Right, whether it's a group chat that you're in, TV.
And you said it right now, family too sometimes,
Family,
know when to avoid certain things. Know that if that situation's gonna cause whatever, look the other way.
Yeah.
Or maybe don't go to that barbecue that weekend. You know what I'm saying? Like, know what's gonna be productive for you and for because that's just also being beneficial to your family members, right? Mm-hmm. Like, why go stir the pot? Or why go knowing that that's gonna be something? And same thing with your friend groups. Like, there's been times where, like, I'm in situations where I'm like, man, I know if I'm gonna go hang out there, I'm gonna hear more about stuff that I don't need on my plate. Yeah, I don't have the mental space for it.
Save yourself.
Yeah.
Think ahead.
Like, I care. I want, if I know they're good, cool. I don't need to know the who's with who and why they're not.
Or just walk away. Sometimes you find yourself in situations where you're in the same building, but you can walk away. You don't have to contribute to the drama and the negativity,
the comments or any of that stuff.
So I like that one a lot because I think that you can save yourself from a lot of energy sucking. Yeah. If you just stay away from that.
Absolutely. And I think understanding how valuable your energy is and knowing, like, that may be, like, that's just up there with self-worth, like, knowing what's worth your time. And like that.
Love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which actually number 12 is love. Love. Like, that is the highest frequency, the highest vibration. Love yourself. Yeah. I mean, this all goes full circle back to number 1, but just love. Yeah. That is the greatest thing that you can do for yourself, that you can gift yourself with and gift others with.
Absolutely. And I think when you love yourself, it's kind of one of those things where, like, you live by example, right? Mm-hmm. So if you love yourself and you surround and you reaffirm yourself with that, and you make that your basis, that's just what you give off to other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's probably way deeper and the things that we should be wasting our energy on, right? Like, loving ourselves, making sure that we're happy with ourselves, because life happens, man. Life happens, situations happen, and sometimes there's periods of time where it's harder to recognize that I need to keep going, or that or reaffirming yourself that things will get better. But you can't worry about when those things are going to get better. Love yourself today, love yourself now. Take care of those things, because everybody else is a ripple effect. How you treat everybody else, the things that kind of fall into your life or whatnot, are all effects of those things. It's kind of just like positive reinforcement. You know what I'm saying? But absolutely, having that as the core of everything, I think is really, really important. And why, when we were going over this list, it was like, yes, 100% yes, because you can get superficial, or okay, I shouldn't say superficial. I'll scratch that. You can get technical, right? And look at, like, say self-care is getting your nails done, getting a facial, eating salads, and and doing all these like stereotypical things, so to speak, right? And those all things are great. I think they're all part of the process, right? But when you match that with the core of things, the internal things that need to be self-care, they just get heightened.
I mean, this list right here is getting to the root of your self-care and your self-worth. Absolutely. And that is the foundation. I think you can only grow from there. And if you start to focus on things like this, you heal yourself. You start to grow and to believe that you can become anything that you want to be.
That's so true.
But it has to start with yourself and with this list.
And I with that said, I want to welcome this conversation to continue, because self-care shouldn't just be a day or a week or an event. Like, it's something that it's a lifestyle, and to be something that is constantly evolving for us individually, and helping others figure out helping each other figure out what self-care means, and sharing tips and all that good stuff. So I invite you guys to come visit our booth on Thursday. It's March 18th at Skinn Bar in McAllen. As you know, just so come and talk to us, share what you guys think may be some of your self-care tips. Come check it out. Come check out what some of the other vendors got to offer, and comment below or shoot us a message. Let us know what you consider self-care. Let us know what's a work in in progress for you, and how we may be able to help brainstorm on how you can make that more efficient in your life. So thank you guys for tuning in today. We appreciate it. If you're joining us for the first time, please visit our Facebook page, our Instagram page, and YouTube page. They're all Living the Journey RGV. Like, subscribe, share, comment. We want to hear from you, and most importantly, thank you guys for all the continued support in our project, and we will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.